Hello, good morning and good afternoon. My name is Frank Raimondi. I'll be the host today on our live demo and peer Q&A. We'll give another minute here for a few more people to log in and get in process, but thank you for joining right now and just hang on 1 minute. Okay, I think looks like we got some good folks on. So why don't we get started with some of the basics. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Frank Raimondi with IGI Cyber Labs. I'm the Vice President for Channel Alliances and Partnerships and Distribution. We have a very special guest today, Christian Argie from Top Notch. We'll introduce him and let him chat in a minute. But wanted to just sort of clarify what to expect today. We're going to do kind of a quick intro and demo of Nodeware. And basically, we're going to make this an interactive Q&A session between Christian and myself and my colleague Matthew Koenig, who will be joining momentarily as well. We are going to be recording this, and so if you or your colleagues want to view this afterwards, we'll be sending out email with that information, and it'll be posted on our website as well. So just upcoming real quick, just our next physical event. We were at ChannelCon in Las Vegas last week, and in a couple of weeks we'll be in Nashville, Tennessee for Exchange. If you're going to be there, please let us know. We'd love to schedule some time or just see you. We all are having we'll have a booth there, and we'll have a solution session. We won't be doing the boardrooms, but we'll have a solution session that you can choose to attend, and we'd love to have you participate with us there. So see you in Nashville. Christian, let me introduce you, or I'll let you introduce yourself. But Christian's the principal founder with Top Notch, a fairly recent customer to Nodeware, and we're going to talk about his experiences and what he's done there in a little bit. But Christian, maybe introduce Top Notch and yourself, and tell the audience who you are.
Sure. Hi guys. My name's Christian Argie, and I'm with Top Notch Computers. We are Virginia based. Our number is in the 30s. Most of our clients are Virginia, Mid-Atlantic. We have a few decentralized customers across the country as well, and we've been in business for about 20 years.
Cool. And maybe just do you have any vertical specialties, any kind of focus areas, customer types?
Well, I can tell you the ones I don't like. But
I don't think like or don't like.
We don't discriminate too much. We sort of let the dominoes fall, but we definitely have our specialties. A lot of medical and dental, hotels, private schools, manufacturing. Those are probably at the that's half of the pie chart right there, and trickles down.
Okay. And we won't get into it unless somebody really wants to know, but who do you stay away from? But again, you don't have to answer that now.
I'm probably not alone, but I think the worst verticals for MSPs are restaurants and bars, frankly.
Even worse than car dealerships?
You can add that.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through a little bit of a demo about Nodeware, kind of talk a little bit about what our focus is. And if you do have questions or anybody wants to just make a comment or ask a question of myself or of Christian or Matthew when we get on board, there's a box over there. Just type your question in, and if it's a simple question, we'll answer it online. Otherwise, we'll bring it up and have a discussion about it. So appreciate your time there. So Nodeware, in a general statement, is a continuous continuous vulnerability management program and solution. our focus is really on delivering data and information that helps you keep your customers safe or safer by reducing the risk, and you do that by identifying assets, by evaluating their risks and what's on them, and then we in the tool really provide a very valuable remediation recipe. We've got some other features coming down the line to add into it, but at this point we really are focused on delivering the best solution that helps you, again, identify and manage. We do that, and kind of to this point you're seeing on the screen here. This is your access and your view at the start of the portal. But to get to this point, we've deployed, and very simple deployment. And Christian, you can talk about this in a moment. The deployment is really straightforward. To launch sort of 3 elements of deployment that get you to this point, and again, sort of the full collection of your universe or your customer's universe. First is with a virtual network sensor. Does not need to be a specialty device you need to put on the network. You can use an existing desktop system or server or a number of other devices. You can just load the virtual sensor on there, or a virtual VM. So that captures everything on the net. It's got an IP address. We're going to identify it and fingerprint it, and we'll scan it to some level, a basic level or more in depth, and we'll talk about that. So that captures everything from the IP cameras on the edge to the servers in the closet, and everything in between. Again, server scanners, printers, iPhones and Androids that connect into the Wi-Fi. Again, so if that an IP address, we can identify it and start it there. We also have agents that can be put both on those on-prem devices like a desktop or a notebook that's in the office, or for all your remote customers. Everybody's got remote customers and locations these days. The agent can be put onto those devices so that when they're connected to the internet, they're connected to you. And you're able to continue scanning them and to knowing if they're online or not, et cetera. Thirdly, then we have a cloud scanner where you can enter in your external IP addresses, your cloud instances, your websites, and those count as an individual asset. So all that collectively brings us to this point here, where as an MSP, you can see the average score across all your customers. You can look at your individual customers, you know what you're using, what your subscriptions are, et cetera. There's some other information from CISA and NIST, some of the news feed that is relevant. And then on the bottom here is just some kind of our brag sheet of how many scans and everything that we're protecting. So let's go into the customer's view, or the MSP's view of their customers. So here you can see these 4. You can see a quick scan of the critical vulnerabilities within each, if there is, and their overall score. We can go into one particular customer, again, see all those assets. So by that first step that we mentioned about identification and fingerprinting, that's for here. So we have the IP address, the MAC address, and the fingerprint. We also do some sorting. So if you wanted to, and tagging, these are kind of, these are organic, if you will, right? Based on what we found. If you want to look at Ubuntu that day, you can also create unique and custom tags. So if you wanted to just look at finance or first floor or whatever location A within your environment, you can do that quick sort and get to the data that you're looking to provide. And then of course over here is your scoring of all your devices and all your assets in that realm. And then again, just real quickly over here, you can see that this asset, that it's online. There's the green eyeball, and what kind of whether it's a sensor or an agent or a credentialed scan, what is on that device, or how that device is being scanned. So if we look down here at we've got a 0, so something's wrong with this device. Let's go in and look at it. We can see these are the criticals. Here's the highs, et cetera, different levels of information. We can see there's a description. Here's the specific CVE that's going on and that needs to be addressed. If it's a credential scan, let me look at one of these agent-based devices. Let's see. So here's where's our agent? Here's a little Mr. Agent Man. We can look and see, here's some open ports, right? Here's some suggestions, here's results, etc. So this is really, again, a quick scan down into a device to see what's going on, what needs to be done, and what you can do to fix them. Let me just go kind of quickly. I'll just go to the reports, which is the next requested thing that is really relevant for MSPs and their customers. We can look at a number of different reports. You can see executive summary, a full network, top vulnerabilities, etc. We can go through and look for that. You can schedule them. So if you wanted to get a weekly report on Sunday for these 3 reports for all your customers, you can go in and schedule those, and so they would be in this platform here, again, for quick, easy download and auditing, trailing, downloading, however you want to archive the data. You can also do a quick request. So if you just wanted to see, I'm going to the customer this afternoon, I want to get an executive summary, I can push that and get that report, and that'll be up here in just a moment. We also, if you are able to have the ability to retrieve data, see that report's ready, and I'll go to that in a minute. If you did have API capabilities and you wanted to pull any of the data sets that we have in here, from reports to individual asset data, et cetera, you can pull that in using the API key, and we have full recommendations and scripts there for you to do. So this report is available. Let me just download. I'll show you quickly what an executive summary report looks like. Here it is. It's the scoring, 886. You can see the top 10 vulnerabilities. 8 of them are critical, 2 high. Again, most common. And then kind of a profile, and then finally a listing of the assets that are on that device, and then a little bit of sort of what we're doing in the process. So again, very simple report you can share with your customer. Say, hey, last month we were at 850. We've done these 3 things. Here's where we're at. Here's our roadmap to get above 900, and then beyond that to continually improve and provide stickiness to that. And then again, I have a full support page, great knowledge base with step-by-step instructions. But let me ask Christian if there's anything that I've shown here while I'm sharing the screen, anything that you think is really relevant to your usage today of Nodeware.
I mean, just so far, and it's important to point out that I'm kind of the guy that knows 80% of everything and 100% of nothing, but just the whole I call it the rainbow scores. Getting in front of a client with that, just the from a sales standpoint, the psychological effect of that just off the bat it's been very, very well received.
Got it. Great. No, I'd love to hear about that. All right, so let's I'm going to stop sharing and let's just have kind of go on to the discussion. And Matthew, if you want to show your pretty face, we can have you in the part of the discussion. But Christian, maybe kind of step back a little bit. You guys have been active with vulnerability. Kind of it's been an interest and category to expand upon. Kind of maybe go through your evaluation process. What did you do? How did you kind of come across this? How did you decide to select this as your primary tool here?
So we had kind of been on the hunt for a CVM solution for a couple years for multiple reasons. We've had clients more or less ask for it. There are some compliance arenas where we knew it could close a lot of loopholes and make people's lives easier. And obviously, one of the biggest things we do with it is essentially sales and customer retention and account management in some perspective or another. So we looked at several solutions. We looked at the popular ones like Nessus and Cyber CNS, and we looked at an open source solution because we're very big into open source here. And nothing really gave us the fuzzy and warm feeling. And our security lead, Brian, approached me with Nodeware and just said he'd been kind of doing some research, and this is a newer company, and it seems like it's really they're in business for companies like us. The model, how we resell our other software and services, I feel like we could assimilate this into our organization, and why don't we set up a call with these people? So then we sort of got the ball rolling.
Great, that's super. So maybe expand a little bit on what you're doing today with it. The customers you've rolled out to, and you're kind of in process of continuously, adding more to your mix. But what's maybe kind of walk through a scenario. How long is it taking you to set up that new customer? What are the first few things that you do once you're installed?
Sure. So, well, let me even back up a bit, because we use Nodeware for sales and service, right? And how we approach those can be a bit different. To answer your question, how long does it take to roll out a deployment, to do it the right way? Hours, but not days, depending on the size of the client. It also depends how much reach you have into the customer's network, and how much they're going to let you probe, because if it's already a client, or if it's a non-managed client, not so much of a big deal. If it's somebody who's shopping around, Nodeware can be a great sales tool. Then the challenges you run into are they really going to give you the administrative access you need, or are we going to do something to tip false alarm, tip off the incumbent MSP or something? So what we can do with it then is obviously not as extensive. So that answers your question. Very easy to use, though.
Yeah. Well, and I know so that's kind of on the deployment, and I know, one of the things we pride ourselves on is our support and our onboarding process, right? We've done this with, especially over the last couple of months, anybody that's deploying, we kind of bring our lead support engineer on, kind of do a first deployment with them, walk them through. They do it, but we're kind of, guiding them, and then once you get down there. But maybe talk about your experience with support, and what that's added to your, or removed from your worry, if you will.
Right. That it's been pleasantly surprising. We have encountered, we've encountered things that we didn't get on our initial training or our onboarding. Multiple times we've encountered problems. Sometimes they ended up being on our end, and a couple times, they were just bugs. and what's really great, that's actually it's a really good thing, because Mark and the support team, every time something comes up, they get back to us within a couple days, and there is a solution, and they'll talk to us. And we've even run into situations where we're like, boy, I wish we could do this or that. Can we? And the answer is no. That's not part of the product. And we've actually had him implement these features just because we suggested them. So yes, definitely thumbs up on the support side, which I'm sure we would not be getting this kind of treatment with Nessus, and we'd be paying a lot more money.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, appreciate that. Hey, Matthew, any thoughts or comments so far, or questions you want to ask Christian?
Well, I mean, I'll let you answer one of the questions people have put in the question box. So, Christian, somebody was asking, why should my customers have Nodeware?
So, your customers obviously are going to benefit from the reduced risk, right? Historically, let's face it, as a busy MSP, we have our stack that's doing its job, and then at certain intervals, depending on the vertical, we go in and we do digging, right? We dig up dirt, and then we do remediation on the dirt. Nodeware is constantly active. It finds things that humans do not find, that antivirus software and firewall appliances do not find. And it can really close a lot of loopholes in certain, compliance sectors of the economy, if that's a good answer.
Oh, perfect answer.
Yeah, well, I was just sort of to expand on that a little bit. You were kind of getting there to a point with around compliance, but have you had any, insurance forms? Hey, Christian, can you fill this out for me? I need to get this. I need this data. Are you seeing an increased need for the data that Nodeware provides, and/or just sort of compliance types of data, more regularly? And is this helping you?
Yeah, honestly, like the two biggest features that we see on cyber insurance forms and any sort of long obnoxious compliance forms are probably CVM and XDR, and it's really steaming towards just more sectors of the economy all the time. And I would say, if you're lucky enough to be in an unregulated industry, take a deep breath, because at some point you're going to have to start, watching your P's and Q's and doing things right, regardless, for one reason or another.
Well, you hit on a perfect point also. One of the things, as I'm talking to MSPs at all these shows or whatever, say, what's the difference between vulnerability scanning and EDR and SOC or whatever? And tell me if I'm way off. What I usually tell them is, vulnerability scanning is proactive, right? And I relate it to people. I never try to use examples that are way out there. You go to the doctor, heart disease runs in your family. Doctor says, hey, looks like based on your last blood test, you have some markers. I suggest you do this, this, and this to make sure this doesn't become a problem. That's vulnerability scanning. EDR, and by the way, I'm not saying you don't need both. You absolutely need both. But EDR is, holy crap, I'm having a heart attack. I hope they get to me in time, and then I'll make the changes afterwards. That's kind of the way I explain it, that, you absolutely need both. One is proactive, one is, oh shit, reactive, and you need to put them together.
Right. Yeah, and there can be some overlap, and full disclosure, there can be some overlap, but we've always been, I think probably for the last 15 years, we've been very, very loyal to ESET, and we still are. But ESET, they've been a tiny bit behind the curve on some of this stuff, but their XDR product it'll give you some of the same some of the same data, some of the same reports that Nodeware will, but there's a huge difference. You have to go in and install their agent on every single compatible device, and so that, number one, means that you have to take action and run around all these computers or push a policy out that's going to install software before it does you any good. But it doesn't cover new devices that enter the network. It doesn't cover other devices with IP addresses that can be hacked or compromised, like printers and phones and operating systems that don't support it. So it really is no comparison there.
Got it. Kind of to that point, maybe just describe your environment. One of your typical customers today. You're using sensors and agents? Are you doing externals? What kind of pieces are you using?
Well, let me tell you I'll tell you a bit of the difference between how we approach it from a sales standpoint and a service standpoint. And
Okay.
This is going to answer your question. It can, because again, it can help with both. let's start from the service standpoint. We already been talking about that. If this is our managed customer, then we're going to set it up right. That means we set up the sensor, and the sensor can be a virtual machine and Hyper-V or VMware, or it can be just deployed on a desktop OS. The sensor kind of lives there and sprawls out and probes the rest of the network. But you get a lot better eyes into things if you install agents on everything. So then we'll install agents on all of the endpoints as well. And this is basically, coming at it from a let's do our best to protect the customer kind of standpoint. Now, if it's from a sales standpoint, a site survey evaluation standpoint, and this could either be a customer who's just looking for a new IT provider. It could be a customer who does not have Nodeware, but we are offering it as kind of a premium service. Or it could be a non-managed customer that you'd like to bring over to managed. And at that point, we're not going to invest all the time rolling out a sensor and agents, into the entire environment. But we do want to get a good idea of what we're in for, right? It's if we're about to, if this place is sitting on a powder keg, we need to make sure that our what we pitch and what we quote to them is realistic, so it can help with that. But we're probably just going to do, run a quick sensor scan and produce
Right.
an executive summary.
Get a first snapshot, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we've seen a lot of MSPs that use it that way as well. Okay, maybe they're putting it in their CSRA, their risk assessment is kind of either a freebie or a basic plan, or but we found a lot of folks are seeing it as you find things that you didn't realize you had, or you forgot that you had on the network, but you also find some things that really shouldn't be, or they're really old and they just need a separate SOW to complete, right? It's before we take on your managed security and your managed services, managed IT structure, we got to get these things up to speed or up, replaced. So it kind of gives an additional sales opportunity along that way too, right? So it's not just what they've got, but what else needs to be done to help them along the way.
I'll tell you, if for anyone who's not, anybody listening who's not conducting routine reviews and engagements with your clients, we call them executive business reviews. You really should just at sort of take a step back, high level state of the union sort of situation. Here's what's going on with your company and the IT and cyber landscape. But one thing we really like to do is we'll show a client, we'll go ahead and run a Nodeware scan to take, let it ride for a while, then produce a report. Then we'll do all the remediation that we can, cover some ground. We'll show them at one meeting, all right, here's what we're up against. It's kind of a new client or a client who didn't have Nodeware in the past. Here's what we're up against, and we come back at the next meeting with the second report that shows we knocked it out of the park. So it's really great for just a great way to stay engaged to your.
That's awesome. Yeah, but staying relevant, right? There's so many assumptions that they don't see you every day, or they're not. Sometimes I'm breaking and you're fixing it, right? They just what are we paying you for? We don't see any. Now you can actually physically show them. You know what, we did this, and because of that, you're less risky.
And nobody wants to hear about boring stuff, and if they're going to take their time away from making money, nobody wants to look at backup reports or any of the traditional kind of stuff. Here's what we did. Unfortunately, that's assumed these days. But yeah, it's definitely great for that. And I'll tell you another thing. we've got plenty of customers, and we still have our slow times. I hate to say it, but I mean, cyber, just the whole cyber climate is such a mess these days. Moving target. We've got there's never a time when we're in our slow season, we can't just go find some, like, pick a customer, find the criticals and highs, and open a ticket to just, all right, let's take care of this. Essentially it gives us something to do, for the lack of a better.
Yeah, and we've actually sort of started talking with some of the Nodeware users, right? When they're getting 10 criticals and 20 highs and a bunch of mediums, right? Prioritize on those ones when you've got the downtime, when you've got when you're prioritizing your technicians day-to-day schedule. Make sure you're looking for do the things you need to do, but also be continue looking for the things that are extra, right? Because yes, yeah, Matthew.
We have a question from Daniel. I don't know if you can pull the demo back up again, but he's asking, he said he's having trouble finding remediation guidance and the answers to be able to fix the problems. So I figured we could just show it to him.
Yep. Let me go back and go on here. There was let me see which one. Let's go back to, let me find one of the credentialed scans here. This should help us a little bit here. So in these cases, here's a medium vulnerability. We can see, so here's a description, right? And part of this comes when it's a fully authenticated scan. So if it's just an initial scan on the network, we're going to find some vulnerabilities, but we don't have the credentials enabled for us and authenticated to be able to go sort of a deep dive. And that may be where in some cases they might be seeing some that don't show much detail and others that do. In this case, this is an authenticated scan. We're getting a very clear description. Here's their specific remediation suggestion. And then there's some other resources and releases information, regarding that. So maybe Christian, if you want to sort of, add on to that, how Brian or the team are doing, using the remediation data that we have.
Well, just, the fact that everything's there for you in most cases, and it's tied to a CVE. Yeah, we end up doing external research a lot of the time, and that's fine. It gets us there. It bridges us there. Again, I'm kind of the one who knows 80% of everything, like I said, but the bottleneck to the solution has never really been here.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think sort of a related question is, if an application is out of date, and this again comes to the point of a the deep scan, right? Particularly on an agent-based device that's in the mix, because we have this really full-on complete database of vulnerabilities. In the case of an application like a Microsoft or an Adobe or even a Cisco Meraki app, program, that will show up in as one of the vulnerabilities in here. And I don't think in this sort of demo environment we might have a software play, but an application play. But the application data will be available. And Christian, you might not have gotten to that point of deployment or of identification and fixing yet, but hopefully that answers the question that was posted there. Matthew, any other questions you've seen?
Let's see.
Or Christian, did you have anything to add to that?
I was gonna say last month we saw every single client that was Windows based, which is most of them. All of a sudden there are about 10 to 20 criticals per site and about 20 more highs that just came out of nowhere. And as we drilled down, essentially, I mean, I can tell you the nitty gritties, but pretty soon we discovered it was something that would be fixed by running the next cumulative Windows update, and B, updating Firefox on all these machines. So we just immediately like grabbed this handful of stuff and just sent it down to the tier ones. So
Yeah.
you know, every single customer was the exact same solution, rather than having to take a look at it with an open mind.
Learned once and deployed many times. One of the other features I shared, we just really kind of just launched it this week, or it's just become available, is this decommission. So in some cases, you might, as an MSP, you might have a device that's been on the network, or maybe it's some other device you just don't want to be included in the subscription anymore. You can actually go through and decommission a specific asset. And before, it was something that we had to come through our support team, that, you know, you just, for whatever reason, it was coming off the network, but it was still showing up, or just device you didn't want to. Now you can do that yourself directly within the platform here. So Christian, you might not even be familiar. Brian might not even be familiar with that feature yet. We're just rolling it out. So, all right, Matthew, any other thoughts or questions for you?
No, I mean, I think people just need to remember that continuous vulnerability scanning adds a ton of value from a standpoint of whether you use Nodeware or use anybody else. The fact that you're finding critical vulnerabilities in 24 hours, as opposed to monthly or in 90 days when someone could have already exploited and been out on the network, I think is critical in today's cybersecurity focused world. And I also think, you know, if I give us a little bit of props, you know, we save a ton of time, money, resources, and effort in researching in order to be able to do this proactively and properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, you know, maybe Christian, I'll just sort of extend that. One of the things, you know, again, whether it's compliance or insurance that's coming down the line, right, is more and more, I just want to kind of reemphasize that, you know, the data that you're doing here, and we're working with, you know, in partnerships with a number of different, you know, providers like DataStream and Fifth Wall and some others that are helping MSPs deliver on the insurance requirements, right? They're not being agents themselves, but just being involved and offering some extra value to your customers and providing that. One of the, you know, features is continuous insurability, right? In the years past, it was a checkbox once a year when you were, you know, applying for your renewal. Well, now the insurance companies, and they want to know that you're doing this, you're doing true cyber hygiene, true cyber proactivity, you know, on a, you know, that you're doing it, right? You're not just saying that you're doing it, right? There, you know, we've seen a bunch of claims being declined because somebody said they were doing MFA when they only had it on, you know, 10% of the systems in the environment. So those kinds of things are coming in. What we're really trying to help, you know, the MSPs get sticky with their customers, but also really just bottom line, provide true value and reduce risks to their environment. Right? Because if they go out of business, you're losing a client. So that's the last thing you want to do. So, okay. Let me just sort of, I think we probably, I don't think we have any other questions. I think we've got through what came through. But Christian, any last sort of general comments you'd have regarding to, you know, your usage and what you're doing?
I don't think so, but we're you know, we're looking forward to rolling out more and more clients and curating a better process. So you know, this is sort of an ongoing thing for us, but yeah, so far it's been a good journey.
I do have one question that somebody just asked. What would you consider to be a client that is not an opportunity for Nodeware?
Restaurants and bars. No. So I think there's, you know, in our industry, right? Like in someday, I think every IT service company and MSP's dream is to get to the point where you don't have to deal with cheapskates, mean people, whatever on a daily basis, right? Where you can pick and choose, just here, take it or leave it. And there are some companies in that club. You know, we decided to, when we got to that fork in the road, we scaled up instead of just deciding here's what we're going to do, and you know, this is, you're either a customer of ours or you're not. So yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, we still make a decent amount of money off of emergencies, not non-managed customer emergencies, or companies that just call us out of the blue who have been mismanaged or were trying to do things themselves. And those can be great opportunities for Nodeware customers, because, hey, you know, we just saved your butt. Here's what you're doing wrong, and here's what we can do to reduce risk in the future, no matter what their industry is, right? If there is any reason where we could be facing a liability issue as an MSP, right? If it's going to mess with our liability umbrella, so if you're a regulated industry like finance or insurance or medical, government contractor, right? You're getting it whether you want it or not. Like, that's kind of our approach, because if we don't do that, then we're not doing everything in our power to help you, and that is our promise as your IT company, right? We have very low turnover rate, but yeah, if you're in and even you have to be really careful. CYA, for example, we have a customer who themselves are an unregulated industry, but you know, their biggest client are the four big American sports promotions, right? So the NFL, NHL, and we've had to help them go through vendor questionnaires.
Oh yeah.
That look very, very similar to a PCI compliance or a cyber questionnaire, and sure enough, there it is right on the questionnaire, continuous vulnerability management. So you got to be careful and you know, look you when you're scoping these places out. So yeah. I mean, there's some, we still deal with customers who are just not gonna go for it because they're cheap. They don't care. They've never had anything happen to them to the degree where they're needed. Or I honestly think the worst window of clients for an MSP is like between 3 and 20, because you're always dealing with cheapskates like me, the business owner, right? It's the worst. If you're dealing with somebody, you know, where the owners kind of step back looking at the big picture, you're dealing with an account manager or an IT manager or the controller, those tend to be a lot easier sales. And they're, you know, it's just, here we're doing the right thing, whatever. Whereas when you go to a, you know, 5 to 30 person company, you're going to end up having to deal with the business owner. And yeah, I just don't do as well with them for some reason. I think because we're too much alike.
I love the whole concept of I'm too small to get breached. One of the things I've been teaching MSPs for a long time is your response is this: no, you're not. You just don't hear about it on the news because you're not big enough for anybody to care.
Right.
Or they're small enough and they're not going to tell anybody.
Right. Exactly.
So, all right. Well, hey, Christian, we really appreciate your time today. This has been very helpful. Some great nuggets of information that we'll share. Again, for attendees on the audience, if you want to, you know, give us a try of an MSP, we have a 14-day proof of concept that we're willing to, you know, extend for you. And during that, you can also do a free trial on a customer. You know, give them a try with what you do. Nodeware.com. Please take a look, and you can see our event schedules, some videos. This will be posted on there eventually, or within a day or so, if not sooner. But send us an email at nodeware@igius.com. We didn't really talk about it so much, but I'll bring it up briefly. We've, in the assessment, in the management standpoint, right, that's sort of the proactive play. There's also penetration tests that you probably get a lot of requests for, that again, it's a fox watching the henhouse. You can't run it yourself. Nodeware was developed out of our services team that does penetration tests on a regular basis, all the time. And we've got services there. Actually, we just are launching a brand new product there, which is a 5 externals up to 250 internal pen test for a list price of $3,500. That's a great starting point when it's needed, right? That's whether it's insurance or compliance, they require a pen. They might require a vulnerability assessment, sort of just now and then, but they might also be requiring a penetration test, and we can help with that. So please contact us and let us know if you're interested in any of those. Again, we'll see you at Exchange. We got a couple webinars coming up in the next few weeks as well, either our own that we're participating in. So find us on LinkedIn and follow us there. And we'll wish everybody a great day. And again, thank you, Christian and Matthew, for joining us today.
Sure, Frank.
Talk to you soon.